Welcome back to Ask the Expert. I'm your host, Hannah Place, and today I have the privilege of sitting with Brett Salih, who is the National Trainer and Customer Support Representative for Goldmorr USA. So you have decades of experience in mold remediation and mycotoxins. I'm reading here that you train professionals all over on no demolition remediation methods. But we got to talk a little bit before this interview, and I am seeing this passion for really elevating the industry with evidence-based practices.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to talk with you today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, how did you get into this industry?
Well, yeah, that's a long story, I suppose, like most stories. I've worked in construction most of my life, primarily new construction rebuild and remodeling. Then in the early 2000s, I got into restoration business. Fire and water initially, but the particular company I had didn't do mold, and it was a real need where we were in Arkansas at the time. So I delved into that, and that's not only how I got into mold remediation, got certified in inspection as well as remediation, but then it came in contact with the Goldmorr system and started using that in 2011.
Okay, and would you tell us what makes the approach of the Goldmorr system stand out from other types of remediation?
Yeah, there's several things. We really take a more holistic approach than we see in traditional remediation. Traditional remediation seems to concentrate more on the visible mold growth. Let's say you have it in a bathroom, they go in there and they set up containment and they get rid of the mold in there, and they maybe even scrub and clean the air in that space, but they don't really address the rest of the home. We've learned through science and testing, pre-remediation testing, that the mold spores will spread throughout the home long before the remediator arrives. So if you're a remediation company, or as a remediation company, if you only take care of that one spot and don't do the whole house, you've kind of left the customer with a substandard job, in our opinion. So when we do our remediation and the way we train our companies to do it, we treat the entire building envelope. So not only is the visible mold gone, but again, proven through air quality testing, the spores and other airborne contaminants are gone as well.
That's great. That sounds like it should be the only way to do it.
Yeah, well, we try to be thorough, but it is about testing. I mean, you really can't, you see a lot of things on TV or maybe Instagram. Oh, we kill mold, we get rid of mold, just put this lamp up, just do this, do that.
Yeah.
But there's really no testing procedure in place to determine if anything was effective. And so that's what you really need to do. There's labs out there, there's particle count testing, there's a bunch of different ways you can do air quality testing to prove that whatever remediation system is being used is effective.
What would you say are the biggest challenges that remediation companies are facing with mold jobs?
Well, like any business, profitability. You can only charge so much money for any service or product, especially kind of the way the economy is. It's always a challenge for people. So you can't always raise your prices. So one thing you do have to try to control is your costs, and that can be very difficult in mold remediation. Traditional mold remediation is very labor intensive. For example, let's say you have a home that the attic is just completely covered in mold. It might take two technicians, 3 or 4 days, 4 or 5 days even, to do a remediation of that. Wire brushing, scrubbing, sanding, maybe even soda blasting. With a Goldmorr system, we can train your people how to get in there and do that same job more effectively and prove the results in 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
Instead of days. So obviously that lowers your labor times dramatically. It also makes it easier to train your technicians. There's a lot of turnover in our business, and so that's a challenge for a lot of companies. Now I got to train these guys all up. It's easier to train them in the Goldmorr process, and even better, we do all the training. As Goldmorr, we train all the companies that use our products. It's all free, it's all included with their company license, and they sit through a 4-hour Zoom class on how to use the product, and then they're able to accomplish that. I think another challenge for companies is how do they get support for the products or processes they're using? They might use another system. They buy it off a counter somewhere. Well, that's it. They have no further support from the company that supplied that. That's not the way we are. We're there for ongoing support. I tell every company I train, if you don't get the results that you see in our videos or that you see us talking about in this class or anywhere else, I want a phone call, personally.
great.
And we're going to walk them through the process. Oh, I missed something. I didn't pass my air quality test. We'll walk them through it, find out what they did. We're all imperfect. We all make mistakes. Something got missed along the way. It's not the Goldmorr products. It's probably something we as humans missed, and we'll get it right for them.
Do you have a favorite success story of a company that switched over to using Goldmorr and achieved better results?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many over the years. One comes to mind because it's one of our biggest companies now. It was a disaster company in Idaho. They actually had 5 branches throughout the state. So it was a pretty big company long before they came to Goldmorr. And I got a call from them. One of the branches was in a resort community. They had a big house in that area that had a mold problem, and it was getting a lot of public exposure. The mayor was involved. There was an industrial hygienist, which is, for those that don't know, a man who comes out and does the air quality reporting and does the clearances at the end of the job. So there were a lot of people involved, and they had tried some traditional methods that just weren't working. They heard about Goldmorr. They went through our training, got our license. They used the product, and they said it was the easiest job they've ever done. Wow. They were thrilled with the results. The mayor was thrilled with the results. Even the IH, which was totally independent, was thrilled and started recommending them, for other jobs that he was involved in. So, and we get those over and over. I just got a call last month from a new company. Been doing mold for decades. It's literally the easiest mold job I've ever done.
Incredible.
Yeah, and it's not just about being easy though. It still has to be effective.
Yeah.
And that's where the proof comes in the scientific testing post-remediation.
Would you like to make any comments about the differences between mold and mycotoxins and the dangers of the two?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's a lot of talk about, toxic black mold, which is actually Stachybotrys is the name of that mold. And there can be some dangers, to be sure. But with the mold colony itself, it's probably at worst an allergen. People are oftentimes allergic to it. Now, some allergies are very serious. Some people are allergic to peanuts, as we know, and it can actually, cause them to go into anaphylactic shock and so forth. So it's nothing to be, pardon the pun, sneezed at. But mycotoxins now, mycotoxins are actual toxins. Myco is Latin for fungi, and then toxins. Actual toxins, they're not living, they're chemical, that are released by some molds in some circumstances. And they are what has been directly linked to severe medical conditions, all the way from, brain fog clear to the gamut of different cancers and neurological issues. And certainly I'm no doctor, but anybody can Google mycotoxins and find this out. They've been regulated for years in the agricultural industry. Billions of bushels of grain are thrown away every year because they get moldy, and then the mycotoxins are produced. So we're finding that now is really causing people's health concerns. And it's a difficult nut to crack in terms of getting rid of mycotoxins. Again, Goldmorr comes to the rescue. We've been at the forefront of researching this over the last 5 years, and we have a robust protocol to identify them, to remediate and remove them, and then to prove that again with scientific lab reports at the end of the job.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So if there is a mold remediation company or a person who is involved in that industry listening, saying, I really need this in my own practice for my own company, I want the education, I need
Sure.
this support, how can they get involved with you?
Well, this is where you can just contact us directly. Go to goldmorrusa.com, not goldmorr.com. You get our Australian company there, but you want goldmorrusa.com. A lot of information there. Our phone number, you can call and schedule an appointment to just talk to us. But there's a tab for Get Your License. They would acquire their free license to use our product. Then they will shortly then sign up for our, again, Zoom training, which is a 4-hour class. And once that happens, they can start using the product. And again, we'll continue to help them down the road, provide them some marketing materials, different things to help them in their business, to be the real leader in their community in mold and mycotoxin removal.
That's great. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So if you are a mold remediation company looking to up level, looking to serve your clients better, we all deserve clean air. So make sure to get in touch with Goldmorr. And thank you for being here for this episode of Ask the Expert. We'll see you next time.